So, you're a beginner to disc golf and you're not really sure what these names and these numbers mean on your disc? Keep on watching this video. What's up, everybody? Chris Lee back with another Just Throw a Disc Golf video. Hey, check this out. If you're new to this channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell to get more videos like this in the future. All right, so what's up, guys? Chris Lee back with another video. What I'm going to be doing in this video is pretty much talking to you guys about the different discs, the names on the disc, as well as the numbers on the disc and what they actually mean. Now, being a beginner, I know it can be a little bit confusing. It was confusing for me starting over 2 months ago, but I've been around a lot of people who's been giving me a lot of information and I've learned a lot along the way. So what I want to do is just go ahead and share some of that information with you. Now, I'm going to try to keep it short, but sometimes when I keep things short, I tend to leave out a lot of key information that may help you. So if this video get a little bit long, then you know why. But guys, you want to stick around so I can go ahead and explain as much to you as possible so you can go ahead and be successful in your disc golf journey. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right, guys. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and grab 4 different disc types, okay? So let me say right off the bat, if you are somebody who plays golf or ball golf, and you want to know what disc golf is, it's pretty much the same exact concept, except you're using a disc, okay? And most people call it a frisbee or whatever the case may be, but it's just pretty much the same concept as ball golf, but with a disc, okay? So I'm going to explain to you the different type of disc that you can use in the process to go ahead and better your game, or that you would use in disc golf, okay? So, all right, guys, so let's just go ahead and talk about the first one. This is your putter, okay? Your putter is going to be utilized for more of your short distance shots, or it's going to be more so the main thing that you utilize to make your shots within the basket. Short holes, short distances. If you notice, this is going to be one of those discs that's not going to be the disc that you utilize to go 400, 500 feet. I mean, you're going to have some people try to throw it out there, but as far as making shots, it's going to be a lot slower in the flight numbers, which we'll talk about later. This disc is going to fly a lot slower. It's going to fly a lot straighter and more stable through the air. This is just going to be something that you utilize to make your up-close putts, your up-close shots, or if you want to do an up shot toward the basket to get you in good position. So this is a really good disc to have. This is going to be one of your main and probably the most important discs in your bag to actually have. So I would always have a putter, okay? All right, so the next thing that we need to focus on is your mid-range disc, okay? This is going to be the disc that's going to be able to fly further than your putter. This is going to be more of your controlled disc that's going to help you get a lot of those mid-range shots, okay? So it's likely not going to be one of the discs that goes, 450 to 500 feet. It just depends on your arm speed. It's not something that you necessarily want to use as a fairway driver or a distance driver, okay? Your mid-range is just going to be something that you want to utilize to get a little bit more distance than your actual putter, okay? This one is going to go further than your putter. It's going to travel a lot faster through the air than your putter. And then you can also manipulate this one a little bit more than your putter, okay? Now, granted, you can manipulate any of your discs to fly the way that you want them to fly, but there's other factors that you have to consider, like the flight numbers, flight pattern, etc. And we'll talk about all that later. But with this mid-range disc, this is just going to be something that's going to be more so for your up shots. It's going to help you get a lot closer to the basket. If you have to reach a particular distance that a putter cannot, then your mid-range is going to be definitely good for that. And then also, you don't want to be utilizing discs that fly too fast without you having to overpower things. This is really good for your up shot. So if you have a mid-range shot that you feel like you need a disc to go ahead and travel faster and further that the putter cannot, then your mid-range is going to be very good for that, okay? If you notice on this particular rim, it's a little bit thinner than the actual putter, okay? So let me just go ahead and show you that. All right, it's a little bit thinner than the putter. They look the same, but this one is a little bit thicker than this one, okay? That means that this one is going to travel a little bit faster through the air, and depending on the flight numbers and the flight pattern is going to determine how this disc flies, okay? So the putter is not going to stay in the air as long because it has that thick rim. It's not going to fly as fast. and the flight numbers on it are a lot lower, okay? The next disc that we're gonna talk about is a fairway driver, okay? The fairway driver is gonna be something that you need to cover even more distance than a mid-range and a putter. This particular disc right here is gonna fly a little bit faster than the mid-range and more faster than the putter, okay? If you notice, the rim is a lot thinner on this one, so it's gonna be able to fly through the air a lot faster than the other two discs. And not only that, you're going to be able to cover a lot more distance with your fairway driver, okay? This is going to be one of those discs that's probably easily going to go between, I would say, 300, maybe 400 feet, okay? And just to be realistic, for some people, it's going to be between 200 to 400 feet. It just all depends on your arm speed, and we'll talk about that later. The distance driver is going to be the disc that goes the furthest for you, okay? This is going to be very fast. It's going to fly through the air super fast. This particular disc is going to be the disc that you need to get out there 400, 450 feet, 500 feet. Some people even throw further than that. Just depend on their level of skill as well as their arm speed, okay? So me personally, right now, I'm not really capable of throwing 400 to 500 feet. But in the future, I know I will, but this is very important. So when you have long holes that you're playing 700 feet or, 600 feet or maybe 500 feet, you're going to want a disc that's going to be able to at least knock out 75% of that distance off the first tee pad, okay? Let's go ahead and start talking about the flight numbers down here. These numbers, you're wondering what these numbers are, okay? It's basically broken down into 4 categories, and I'm going to try to just go ahead and break that down for you, okay? The first number is going to be your speed, okay? It's going to be the speed of the disc. The second one is going to be your glide. The third one is going to be your turn, and the fourth number is going to be your actual fade. Now, this particular one, I'm not really sure what this number means yet. I've never even asked anybody, so if you know what this particular number means in a solid box, go ahead and leave me some comments down in the comment section so I can kind of explain that to people further in the future. But for right now, we're going to focus on these. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the first number. The first number is going to be speed, okay? The speed is basically how fast the disc is going to be able to travel through the air. Now, it's going to range between 1 and 14. 14 being the highest, 14 being the fastest, 1 being the slowest, okay, in general. So normally or typically, you're going to see maybe a 1 or 2 or 3, probably a 2 or 3 range on something like a putter, and you're going to see something like a 14 or between a 12 and a 14 on a distance driver or something like that, okay? If you don't have a fast arm speed, then none of these discs are gonna fly and perform the way that they're supposed to perform, okay? So you're gonna hear people, it's gonna sound a little confusing because I was a little confused. So yes, the speed is gonna be the speed of the disc and how fast it travels through the air. I've been told that it's more so focused on your arm speed, okay? Of course, it tells you how fast the disc travels through the air. You also have to take into consideration the person's arm speed, because if a disc says that it flies at a 14 speed, which is the fastest or the max, and you don't have really fast arm speed, that disc is not going to travel at that particular speed because you don't possess the arm speed for that disc to travel at that particular speed in general. So it's kind of like one of those things that it's not really focused on a disc speed, but more so of your arm speed, okay? So just keep that in mind. I know it sounds confusing, but your arm speed matters with all these discs in general. So I just kind of want to get that out of the way. Whatever your arm speed is, that's going to determine how these discs actually fly for you, okay? All right, so the next category is going to be the glide. So what the glide is basically how long your disc is able to maintain loft or stay in the air, okay, once it takes flight. It typically ranges between 1 and 7. 7 being the highest number, 1 being obviously the lowest number. So the higher the glide is, the longer your disc is able to stay in the air or maintain loft in the air. So if you find a disc that says 7 on it for the glide, then that's going to be the max. And I have one here somewhere. Let me see. My Latitude River has a 7 on it. So this particular disc has the max glide, which means that once you throw this thing in the air, depending on how you throw it, when you throw it, wind or no wind, whatever the case may be, this is going to be one of those discs that stay in the air a lot longer over the majority of your other discs, okay? Because it has the max number, which is 7. So this is a really good disc. This is one of my favorite discs to throw. I always keep one bag, but let's keep moving on. All right, so the next category that we're going to focus on is the turn, okay? Turn is basically going to be the tendency to turn over or turn right or bank back to the right. That's what the turn is. Your turn is going to range from +1 to -5. -3, -4, -5. That means that the disc is really flippy. It's really unstable. It's going to turn right. It's going to have a hard right turn. So when you release that disc, it's going to come out and it's going to release right. And depending on whatever the fade is, then it'll finish back to the left, okay? And we'll talk about fade later, but for right now, anytime you see a high number of the -3, -4, -5 on the turn, then likely the disc is going to have a hard right turn when you release the disc, okay? So that's just kind of giving you an idea of what that is. The last category is going to be your fade, okay? Your fade is basically going to be the disc tendency to fade or hook left. Now, it's going to range between 0 and 5, okay? So basically, the higher the number is, say 3, 4, 5. So that just means that however you release this disc, once the disc is released, once you start to finish, the disc is going to basically hook to the left or it's going to finish left, okay? That's something that you want to keep in mind. So your turn is going to be right, fade is going to be left. So you have the speed, you have the glide, you have the turn, which means go right, and you have the fade, which means go left, okay, or finish left. This particular disc has a turn of 0 and it has a fade of 3. That means that this disc is pretty much going to fly straight, and then at the end of its flight, it's going to basically turn left or fade off to the left, okay? So that's just to try to give you an example. All right, so for example, my Thrasher is going to be a little bit more understable, okay? So with this particular disc, let me just go ahead and give you the numbers for example. This is a 12-speed disc, so this is a pretty fast disc, which means it's going to travel a lot faster, and you need a fast arm speed to be able to get this disc to perform the way you want it to perform, okay? And then it only has 5 glide, okay? So with 7 being the max, that means that this thing, once you throw this thing in the air, it's going to travel fast, it's going to travel far, and it's going to stay in the air for a while, okay? Then it says the turn is -3. So that means once you release this disc is coming out and it's going to the right first, okay? It's going to come out and it's going to travel to the right first. Now, it says that the fade is 2, okay? So that means that once this disc comes out, it's going to travel to the right, and then at the end of its flight pattern, it's supposed to come back to the left, fade back to the left, okay? So that's just how you got to kind of understand what the flight patterns are on these discs, or what the flight ratings are. That's going to kind of give you an idea of which disc you need to actually utilize to take a particular shot. If you need something that you need to kind of bend around the tree first, or try to bend around the tree and come back to the basket, then this is an example of a disc that I would utilize for that. Sometimes I have to bend around the tree, so I would need to go around the tree, okay, and then I need the disc to come back toward the basket. This will be a particular disc that I will utilize for that because it's understable. It's very flippy. I would be able to basically manipulate this disc to do more so what I wanted. When you utilize discs that are more stable or overstable, whatever line that you put them on, they're pretty much going to stay on that line, and they're going to try to overcorrect and do exactly what they're supposed to do. On my Discraft Meteor, you're going to see that the speed on this mid-range disc is only 5, okay? And then the glide is 5. Now, the turn is -3, so that means that this disc is going to go to the right, and the fade is 1. So this disc is typically going to fly pretty straight and stable for you, a lot slower, but then it's going to fade to the right, and then it's going to barely finish back to the left, okay? So depending on the wind and other factors like that, if you throw this disc flat, that's just basically going to tell you how this disc is going to fly. Turn and the fade numbers kind of go against each other, if that makes sense. So this particular disc, with it already being fast and thinner, this disc can get really flippy. So with it being thin, any type of wind with this disc can actually tip this disc over. So it all depends on how you release the disc. If you release the disc like this, straight out, this is flat. This is called a flat release, right? This is called a flat release. Now, if you release the disc on something called a hyzer, then you release the disc with nose down, angled down this way, okay? And then if you release the disc on an anhyzer, it would be releasing the disc where it's upward, okay? Where you can almost see the bottom face of the disc. So this is anhyzer, this is flat, this is hyzer, okay? That's just different ways that you can release the disc. Now, with this particular disc being so fast and flippy, what I mean by that, how I view it is, when you see the disc say -3 and then you see the fade say, 2, that means that this disc is going to fade to the right and it's going to go to the left. And depending on how you release this disc, showing the wind and where the wind is coming from, if you release this thing to the right and say you have a headwind, that means that this disc is already going right, okay? This disc is already going right, and if the headwind is coming toward the disc, it's going to make this disc fade even more to the right or hard right. So in order to get this disc to be more so in bounds, you could either release it more left and let the wind take it to the right, or you can do something called disc down. And disc down pretty much means to find more of a stable disc or something that's not gonna fly or be as flippy when you throw it in the air, so you have more control over what the disc does. Being said, what people tend to do is in headwinds, they tend to use more discs that are more stable or overstable, okay? An overstable disc is going to be the disc, if a disc has turn as 0 and a fade of say 4 or something extreme like 5, then that would be considered a very overstable disc, okay? That disc is pretty much going to fly on a line that you put it, and no matter what, when it flies on that line, that thing is just going to tank over. It's going to turn hard left no matter what. It's not going to stay in the air too long. It's going to be a very overstable disc. You may get a good rip. You may put it on a good line, but that overstableness of that disc is just going to turn over. It's going to tank left. It's going to fade left really hard. That's my example of an overstable disc, okay? When you are looking for something that's more of a stable disc, I would even say, I think a Mako. I think a Mako may be a Mako 3. I think it may be a 5500. In my opinion, that's more of a stable disc. That disc is gonna fly at a slow speed. It's gonna have a glide of 5, okay? And the turn and the fade being 0, it's gonna just basically fly straight. It's not gonna tank left, it's not gonna tank right, it's not gonna go hard right, it's not gonna go hard left. That's more of a stable disc. It's just gonna fly straight. So if you are looking for a disc to just go straight, then find discs that have a fade and a turn of really low numbers, okay? So 0, 0, 0, 1, something like that. That's going to be more of your stable disc. But when you start moving in the realm of overstable disc, the turn to be like 0 and the fade maybe 3, 4. I've never seen anything as extreme as a 5, but that's something that's going to be more overstable, if that makes sense, okay? That means that no matter what you try to do with that disc, it's not going to go right. It's going to go left. Those are discs that are really overstable, okay? All right, guys, so that's pretty much it for the video. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. Did I leave any information out? If so, please put it down in the comment section so other beginners will know. Again, guys, I gave you the information that I've been learning in this process. Yeah, you tend to learn from a lot of different people in this field of sport, and everybody has their own concept and theory or perspective of how they feel this actually works. So with that being said, just try to learn what you can and then see how it works best for you as a thrower or as a disc golfer in general, because everything tends to work for people in different ways. There are disc golfers that I know that have been throwing over 20 years and they don't give a damn about what these numbers say in general. They don't care about what any of these numbers are, the flight numbers. They told me from experience, they pretty much can manipulate discs to fly any way that they want them to, so they don't pay attention to that. They base it off how they release it, how they hold it, whether that's splat, hyzer, anhyzer, flex shot, whatever the case may be. It just all depends. Forehand, backhand, whatever. So how it works for everybody else, it may be a little bit different for you. Learn at your own pace. Just have fun with it. Don't get frustrated. Find somebody that actually can mentor you or you can have a lot of fun with learning from, because that's what I do. I found some great people in the disc golf community who have been helping me along the way, and it's really helping my game, bettering my game a lot. I have some good days, I have some bad days, I have some awesome days, and I have some terrible days, okay? So it's just all a learning process. With that being said, guys, I truly appreciate you watching my video. Please hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, as well as like this video and share it with other people who may want to know how to start disc golf as a beginner and what all this stuff may mean. Other than that, guys, I truly appreciate you watching the videos. So remember, if you're new to disc golf, pick up a disc, don't stress, and just throw it.